I remember the doctor asked me, "Did you drive here?" And I said, "No." And she said, "Okay, good, because you're going to be going in the ambulance to emergency surgery right now." With that pregnancy, I ended up with hypertension. And at the end, I had to go and get, blood pressure readings. When she weighed me, she's like, "Hey, Dee, I just want to tell you, you're a small person and you're probably going to have a small baby, and everything else you're going to be stuck with at the end." And I thought, wow, that's really that's harsh, right? My name is Dee Davidson, and I'm located in Massachusetts, born and raised in Massachusetts. I'm a board certified functional health practitioner. So I went through an unexplained infertility journey. One of my jokes is that many of us spend many years trying not to get pregnant. And then when we go to conceive and nothing happens, we may think, oh, wow, it wasn't as easy as I thought. The reason I became a board certified functional health practitioner, because I think there's such a lack of awareness around the increase and rise in infertility, the options that are out there, how, hormones work. I'm a hormone health expert as well. I get a certification in hormone health. Well, I was in my mid-30s. I went to conceive, and this is when I got the diagnosis of unexplained infertility. No infertility diagnosis, I think, is good, but the unexplained part is even more frustrating, in my opinion, because you kind of want to at least find out something's wrong with me. And that wasn't the case for myself. Prior to getting that diagnosis, I was in my mid 30s. So, they start looking at women's chances of being able to conceive, and they look at your age. They put you under all of these tests. I remember going for a dye test to see if my tubes were clogged up or blocked. My partner went through, sperm count tests and motility and quality and all of that. I never had irregular periods, so that was another thing. Some people have PCOS or endometriosis, or I never had any of those issues. So in evaluating me, they look at my history since, ovulating, and physical things that might be present, hormone blood tests, my levels, all of that appeared to be what they call normal. So that's when they put you in this unexplained category. And many of us here, well, you just have to relax or take a vacation or it will happen, because they really don't know why. When I got this diagnosis, I decided to join some support groups and really get educated in regard to who was in this category. I wanted to find out what's wrong with me, basically. So what I started to find out was that chemicals in our food, I think you and I know that our food, a lot of people are eating food-like substances, but they're not eating real food that's grown from the ground or has a mother. So all the processed food and the chemicals are disrupting our hormones and confusing our body. The second piece to my diagnosis, if you will, which wasn't a diagnosis, was the birth control piece. My joke about being on birth control, I went on birth control, I don't know, I was 17, so 20 years or whatever I was on it. I believe, this is my own personal opinion, that I probably put my body into a coma. So it's you're telling your body what to do month after month. Now it's kind of confused as to how to do the process, because, to speed up past my IVF experience, I was fortunate that I only had to do one round. And because there was no egg quality issues or sperm quality issues, it all came together, and it was a wonderful experience in that aspect. I went on to have my second child naturally first try, and I had a miscarriage in between first try. So I feel like the drugs that I took, they were good and bad. They accomplished the outcome that we wanted, a nice, healthy child. I think it gave it it's like when your battery's dead and you have to give it that jump start. I think the drugs, it helped my body to get back to where it needed to be to know what to do on its own for my second pregnancy and my third pregnancy.
You received a diagnosis of unexplained infertility
Mm-hmm.
through your IVF process. Is that right?
Yes.
So talk to me a little bit about what that process is like. Maybe even your decision to undergo IVF, and then receiving the diagnosis, and then, of course, going on to conceive.
To back up a little bit, before I was in the actual IVF clinic, first they had me try, oh my gosh, I forget the name of what it was called. Basically, IUI, I think it's called. It's like a way to do it like in the office. They don't extract eggs and do all the lab stuff. It's kind of like they're taking the sperm and then putting it inside you and seeing what happens kind of thing. They did that. And what happened was I did end up with a pregnancy, but it was an ectopic pregnancy. It's a tubal pregnancy, basically. I was having these pains and they kept telling me like, oh, you're fine, you're fine. And I pushed for them to see me and they did an ultrasound. And I remember the doctor asked me, did you drive here? And I said, no, I didn't drive here. And she said, okay, good, because you're going to be going in the ambulance to emergency surgery right now because your tube is about to rupture, because I had this ectopic pregnancy. But I get there and they can't save it. So now I'm down to one tube. So they said, well, your checklist isn't good, your age isn't good, and now you have one tube. So it's a little hard. And I'm lucky that I live in a state. Massachusetts is one of the few states that insurance covers if you have all of these reasons lined up. I don't know how many boxes they have to check. So my OB had said to me, you know, you're a great candidate for this. And I've been trying for a year. I think that's the marker. You have to be trying for a year on your own. She said, now you don't have the tube. So I'm going to refer you out if you're open to it. And we knew we wanted to have a family. And I didn't really know much about any other way to do it. And, you know, you trust your doctor, right? Your doctor's like, your chances are like slim to none. So I felt fortunate and blessed that I could get it covered, because it can be really, really expensive for all the medications and the visits and things. And so I ended up at Boston IVF and went for the consultation. And they said, you probably won't have a lot of trouble because your egg quality and sperm quality is good. It's just not all coming together the way it's supposed to. Finding support is really what got me through that. And I think people really need education and hope and to hear other people's stories. But yeah, so that's how I ended up making the decision and getting into that clinic.
Do you recall the names of the medications, perhaps, or the shots you took?
No, I know that it's like the follicle stimulating hormone is the shots, I think. I don't know what brand or what things they were, but
mostly, right?
Mostly hormones. Yep. Yeah. So you're making your body do stuff because it's probably not doing it on its own.
Mm-hmm. And so you experienced some side effects from these treatments, right?
Mm-hmm.
Tell me when you felt like something was going wrong, or when you first noticed things were not normal after taking medications.
Yeah. So during the pregnancy, I mean, the pregnancy is what it is. With my son, wasn't ill or anything like that. It definitely did affect my body. Being a functional health practitioner now, I understand what I call metabolic chaos. It's like if you have a lot of stressors present in the body, your functions start to slow down or even stop. Now I can look back and go, oh, wow, like with that pregnancy, I ended up with hypertension. And at the end, like the last 2 months, I had to go and get, blood pressure readings, and they'd put me on the machine to make sure that my son was fine and all of that. Every week I was going in a few times. Back then I wasn't doing what I do now. So I just thought, okay, like maybe my body just doesn't like pregnancy. Knowing what I know now and with my education, I'm pretty sure that my body was like responding to not pregnancy, but everything that I was trying to force to happen through drugs. But the bigger piece of it was after I delivered my son. So I was always really fit, probably in the best shape of my life when I got pregnant. And I remember actually, towards like probably 5 or 6 months, I started gaining a lot of weight, but it's not like I was out eating donuts or ice cream cones. I wasn't like one of those women that was like, well, I'm pregnant and I'm craving this. It wasn't that. But at that point, I knew something was up too, because I started to gain weight. And I remember my OB said to me, and I was like, that was not nice of her. When she weighed me, she's like, hey, Dee, I just want to tell you, you're a small person and you're probably going to have a small baby, and everything else you're going to be stuck with at the end. And I thought, wow, that's really that's harsh, right? I went through my pregnancy. I gained a lot of weight. I don't remember, maybe 70 pounds or something. That's a lot of someone that's 5 foot tall. But it wasn't like I was just sitting around eating bonbons all day. So those were 2 red flags. But after I had my child, she was right. Like I was stuck with this weight, and my friends were in that same place in life, having kids and losing weight. And I was like, what the heck is wrong with me? I'm not losing weight. And they are maybe eating the donuts and not exercising, and they lost the weight. And people would say, oh, just nurse. If you nurse, you'll lose the weight. But what I found is that my hormones were really messed up from all of the drugs that I put in. That's not really your body doing it on its own. it messed up my hormones that my body didn't know how to rebalance. Like it did what it needed for me to have a baby and, have a healthy pregnancy and all of that and deliver. But then post, I was stuck with all these crazy hormone imbalances. And the weight just wasn't coming off. I was doing my weight training. I was eating healthy, managing my stress, all the things you would tell someone that's trying to lose weight to do. And it wasn't shifting.
So were you using the same treatments in the second and third pregnancy?
No, I used no treatments during either of them. So that's why I say, like, did the birth control put me in a coma? Did I clean up my lifestyle? Because I remember I threw everything away in the house. That's when I started to learn this stuff. And I threw away cleaning products and lotions and all those things. So is it because I took that out of my system and detoxed? And in addition to jumpstarting my body through, like, yes, I did use IVF, which was a blessing. I'm so grateful for science and for having those drugs to have my son right now that I wouldn't have. I think it's probably a combination of both of those things. But yeah, I was able to conceive. They told me they were shocked because the first time we tried to conceive, I did have a miscarriage at 14 weeks, but I did conceive the first attempt. And then they said, oh, you got to wait 3 months or something. We were like, yeah, whatever. And like, we conceived right away again. So I think a combination of both of those things.
Is there anything that you would have done differently, knowing what you know now about the whole process and maybe and everything?
Yeah, I didn't really know that there were people like me that existed, which, in addition to being a functional health practitioner, my specialty is hormone health. So I went back to school to study hormones specifically. This was my journey. I'm a spiritual person. I believe that God gives us challenges sometimes so that we can help people with the same or similar challenges going forward. I really do believe that. I don't regret it. And that was the path I was going to go on. But if someone's watching this or is wondering, I would say before you go through putting your body under that extreme stress, because infertility treatments are physically stressful. The drugs themselves are stressful. You're forcing your body to do things that it's not really wanting to do. And the emotional stress on top of that. I mean, again, getting those drugs, not knowing. There was the emotional stress of when I did conceive my son. With my son, they said that he didn't have a heartbeat whenever it was supposed to be, and they wanted me to have a D&C, so have an abortion basically. And what ended up happening was we asked the doctor, what % chance is this a viable pregnancy? And the doctor said, really, it's probably only a 1% chance. And we left there sobbing. And I said, can you just give it one more week? Maybe I'll miscarry on my own. And they said, you could miscarry, but you could also have sepsis, whatever. And I said, okay, we can give it a week. The nurse called me. We scheduled the D&C, didn't need after midnight. And they did the ultrasound to humor me. And the ultrasound technician goes, oh, I'm pretty sure that's a heartbeat. So running joke in our family is that my son always tells his younger brother, mom loves me more because I'm a 1% chance. But again, what my thing that I would do differently is, not everyone has the knowledge, but if someone's listening to this and going through this, find someone who's a hormone health expert, find someone who's a functional medicine expert to look at your lifestyle stuff, because I really do believe, and I have helped people, that if you clean up the toxic body burden, if you look at lifestyle factors, reducing stress, all of that stuff, there's a good chance that you could correct some of these things naturally without going through that process. And the other thing is just be an advocate for yourself, like I did with my son. I mean, he wouldn't be here if I didn't push for that extra week. Just be an advocate and ask as many questions. Don't feel bad. Don't think that, well, because this person's a doctor, that they have all the answers, because none of us do. I mean, they're very helpful, but it's all right to ask a lot of questions. It's a lot. So if you don't have to go through it and you can find someone to properly evaluate you, not just medically evaluate you, but look at your lifestyle factors, talk to you about what you're eating, what products you're using, how you're managing stress, your water, all of that stuff first, I would recommend that, because it's a stressful process. And then hearing that this isn't a viable pregnancy, where his words, 1% chance. And then the whole pregnancy, I worried something was wrong, because I'm like, well, why didn't he have that heartbeat at whatever? And I'm sure that was stress on my body too, on top of everything that was going on. And the whole time he measured small, right? So it's like, again, it's very textbook and very like, this is the way it is, cut and dry. And that's not always the case, right? We're not really ultimately in control of any of those things. So yeah, it's pretty amazing story. And I sent the card to the doctor, the birth announcement of my son, because you go to IVF. So you go to the IVF clinic until you get to a certain point in your pregnancy. I don't know if it's 12 weeks or something. And then they send you back to your OB for the regular checks and all of that. So the whole time I worried, but after I had my son, I mailed the picture of the announcement and just wrote, it was a really nice letter. It wasn't nasty or anything, but I just said, I hope next time that you give it a little more time and give people a little more hope. And by the way, I was stressed out my entire pregnancy. And he did respond and sent me a nice note back and said that he was sorry for the undue stress and that they use charts and graphs and just go off of that stuff. But yeah, be an advocate for yourself for sure.
Absolutely. Thank you. Is there anything that we might have missed in this interview that you wanted to speak on or cover?
Yes, no, I just think that the foundational pieces are more important than people realize. Blood sugar regulation, blood sugar and hormones go together. Again, endocrine disrupting chemicals. Those are the things that I think are overlooked. People just look at like, how's my sperm count and how's my egg quality, but they don't really look at the foundational things. And at the end of the day, the foundational things drive the bus. And just remember that you can literally have a brand new body in 2 years, which people are fascinated. I have a client I just took on, she's like 80 something. And she's like, I don't know if you have any hope for me, but there's always hope. And even if you've used the most toxic things or been exposed to chemicals, I think we get a liver like every few months, you get a brand new liver. So it's really important to, again, look at the foundational things with someone who studies hormones to know what's driving the bus and what things you can do before you just go that route. And if you do need to go the IVF route, it's truly a blessing. And I am really, really grateful for the science, and my son wouldn't be here.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dee.
You're welcome.
That wraps our interview. And are you on social media or your email address or however you feel is best?
Sure. The easiest thing to do is just go to my website, confidentlyloveyourself.com. I'm also on Instagram. I post a lot of educational stuff at confidently_love_yourself. And my podcast is Confidently Balance Your Hormones. And I have all types of experts come on in regard to this topic and all types of hormone issues.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.